Ready when you are?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak over here, and salam alaikum to everybody. When Farooq asked me to have a look at it, the only way I could think of is as a naive reader's take, because my development of understanding of the concept is that it's very, you can say I started looking at it about less than 6 months ago actively. It's been more passive understanding. So, if there is anything that I would ask Farooq to correct me, if my interpretation is wrong from the Arabic point of view. So, I'm going with the meaning. So,
if I know it, I don't know if I know it, but okay.
So this is just my understanding and my view of the Salat. It just does not mean that I'm the authority or it's the final take. It's just where my understanding is evolved up till now. And yesterday, when I was putting it together, this just, I just came upon it and thought of the Surah 2, verse 170 and 171, which is interesting from the point of view that, mostly it is given to us as a historical or traditional take. That is what your forefathers were doing. And whereas, when reading through the Quran, it clearly says that, you should not be blindly following and just adopting what's been told to you. And then there's a thing about reasoning and think what you're doing. So that's just in the background of that. For the sake of time, I'm just going to keep it paraphrasing and keeping it short what my thoughts were behind when I was putting it together. And the question that I found the most difficulty was why. Because when my wife asked me, why are you doing it? I said, well, I'm not sure myself, why do we do the Salah? So, and up till now, the discussion and everything is exploring why and the purpose. And there's been touch upon how, methodology, and what do we do exactly. So I'm just going to move in directly from there to a little bit. This is to touch upon the source. Because I was born in a traditional Muslim family, and if a person is a non-Muslim and when he enters Islam, his understanding is what are the sources. Either it's a Quran or it's a traditional view. So, the choices he gets presented, and it's interesting that Stephen, at that point he gave up his music, and then he started again when his understanding evolved. So,
I think after 20 years.
So it's all about our understanding in progress and what we look at our choice of our source to interpret different things. And being born in a Muslim family and a Muslim country, you pick up things which you don't even realize what you're doing and why you're doing things. And usually it's when you start to know it's about carrot and stick method, the fear, you're going to get that much sawab or you're going to get that much punishment. And you do not really know, and as you grow old, you start to read more about it, you start to clarify the concept. And usually at that time, if you're looking at the source from the Quran directly, you will have a different understanding. But if you just gone towards more of the hadith or the traditional and not picked up the Quran, you will have a total different understanding and take. That is what I've seen as the evolution of people's understanding for that. So what's the purpose of Salat? The question was, does God need our prayers, first of all? Or do we need it? And as it was highlighted before, it's one of the saying, I was trying to find that verse in Quran. It is us who needs basically to do this Salah as compared to God needing just us to perform this. And why do we need to know about it? Why is there so much confusion? These are some of the questions, which comes to mind and they keep on coming up, which is starting to clarify a bit more with multidimensional and other things. It's something food for thought to go back and look at it again. And why is it important? And is it between a person and God, or is somebody else supposed to allow to judge me? Who am I to judge somebody else what he's doing or not doing? That's one thing as well. Is it somebody that someone can judge me because I'm not doing that Salah, or is it for me, or is this has to be judged by the book? A person judges himself against the book. Is he fulfilling his responsibilities or what God has asked him to do than somebody else? trying to judge him and saying or telling him off in a way, which is putting him off. And the other things was about coming into the Quranist circle. It has been something which has been more of a debate and discussions which I've come across. I've not looked into a detail. Often people get very emotional, so it's very difficult outside the context, in outside world to speak with somebody because they're so attached. It becomes very emotional about it, and then they try to defend their position instead of just trying to understand that you're trying to share what you have got, and then they try to share, and then if you both can learn something from each other, that's good. And so it's this kind of attempt to answer. The benefits that I have felt so far, doing the Salah from time to time, and there has been times I've just totally gone without that, and then when I've gotten back to Salah, and that's what I've felt, a state of peace, living with gratitude, feeling the discipline and the unity, and you can see the outcome and the productivity goes much up for me. So it's just being more disciplined, as Farooq was saying about the habit. You feel more fit, more motivated, and you feel the sense of accountability as well. The actions that you're taking, you're going to be judged on that. And you can only put in efforts, you don't control the results. There's something that living in the outside world, the responsibility is that you control the result as well. There is a responsibility for the result, but I do not control the outcome because of the variable factors. So that's my take on it. And then breaking the cycle of stress and being focused. In today's daily life, we become so busy with things that we just lose focus on why we are here, what do we need to actually do, that we're just trying to earn our living, and we forget why we're trying to earn the living and what we're trying to establish. Well, I was trying to get the better understanding, so looking at the root, which is Swad, Lam, Bao, and I basically, the first time when I started reading was from the Lawrence lexicon, so that was at the age of 16 and 13. So then it's about last year that I started reading again. So that is what usually how I refer, which in turn, which coming to Rizwan's lectures and Farooq's understanding, there's a much more deeper understanding that within Quran, you need to read the Quran as a whole entirety and as a chapter. It tells you a lot more about the concept as well as just going with this and then sticking or trying to stick a word or understanding one meaning to go with it. And over here, my interpretation of the horse is not exactly from the point of view that, the word musalli which has been used over here is in the context of one of the words. You're trying to be so close or following closely. That's what I interpret as like walking or following closely behind. And so that's how I look at it, or a supplication or prayer. So that's the meaning that I interpret out of it. Just looking at the Quran, that how many times it's been mentioned. It's mentioned about 99 times. Out of that, 12 times is in the form of a verb, which is at present a bit out of my technical understanding that I can explain that at present, but just for the sake of readers, that how it is present. 83 times it's been presented as a noun, once as a noun, which is musallim, and 3 times as a form of an active participant. So, looking more on the point of view of the contact prayer, this, because I'm coming from a different country, so I used to call it a namaz, which is a different interpretation than coming over here. It's a prayer, and then I got contact prayer, so it's kind of new for me. So looking at the word itself, salat is one prayer. The way some people define it, then how the plural is two, and then more than, and then one of the references that people, the different websites, if you look at it, to verse 2 and 230. Surah 2 verse 238, that they quote that there's more than 2 salahs, contact prayers mentioned, aspects of contact prayers mentioned, physical aspect, how you perform the prayer. So that's surah has been quoted for that. Now this brings the challenging question that we were discussing, how we establish the prayer, and my understanding and background to that was a similar, it's not only one-dimensional, there is a physical aspect, and my understanding is that there is a mention of certain times that you should be doing it. I don't go for you should be doing, but at present my understanding is that you should be doing it. And there are certain times that are mentioned over there, And there are certain aspects of the methodology is there, not as descriptive as that we have taken from the historical understanding or what the historical information is available. And that's where that's where, as Abbas mentioned about the Ibrahims and the origin of that, and that was a very unique, because I had not looked at it from that way, so that's it's a different understanding from that, and I agree with that. And then plus for me, what language should it be used? You know, if you're reading a manual of how to repair a car in a language that you don't understand, what's the purpose of reading it? You know, you can keep on reading all your life; it's not going to help you in any way. So although my understanding is you should be reciting Arabic, but if you do not understand the Arabic word, then you need to be going through in your mind the meaning as well. So you make sense what you are exactly saying to God, or you're trying to connect with Him. You cannot connect with Him without understanding what you're saying. As simple as that. You just verbalizing it. One of the my take, which is at present in kind of a is kind of a system is a word that I have picked up in the past and used it to understand that it's not only the physical aspect. It's kind of a, if you look at the book and the whole entirety, we're just focusing on one aspect and how to live our life as a complete. So I do think that when Salah and Zakat is mentioned together, there's more than a physical aspect that is required from us to be doing and taking part. So that's my take on it. But both aspects, physical contact prayer, if you put it, as well as the establishing the system, social system, or involved with helping other people, both are equally important. That's where I stand at present. That's one of the things mentioned about social consciousness and responsibilities, and there are a few verses and the quotes that up together. These are the verses that's been mentioned earlier, that it makes us humble, and the remembrance was been I think mentioned by Yasin earlier. Few interesting things. Previously I was looking at the timings, how many timings. I'm just looking at the Quran. There are websites and people's view that there are 3 times that has been mentioned over there. And then I was discussing with Rizwan as well. So one of the words where I look at it as the 3 times, Rizwan looks at it as that there are 5 times mentioned over there. So I am basically relying on the interpretation of people. So at present, currently if I look at it that, with the references where the contact prayer is mentioned, the physical aspect, I can find 3 that I can think of, or my understanding is so. And that's more to do with the aspect of the physical aspect of the prayer. When the specific time is mentioned, and so this is more from the timing aspect. And there is verses which clearly mention how should we approach the process, evolution not only of the mind but the physical aspect as well. So the clear guidance is there, so it's more supporting the contact aspect of the prayer is there, the physical aspect. But we should not, maybe my presentation is more focused at present because of my not that much understanding of the system aspect of it, which I'm going to leave it to Farooq at some point more on that, which is at present out of my understanding, interpretation of thing. The other interesting thing which I came across was the concept of raka, which I have not been able to found, but there is definitely about going in prostration, the physical aspects, how you should be doing. And then there's mention in the when you are in a state of war or something, if you have to do, you're standing, and there's the other group standing guard. So there is definitely an aspect of physical standing, bowing, and prostration. And the timing is mentioned, so I do understand, which I take from my understanding is that we need to do a physical aspect as well as the other dimension of the prayer as well.
Just answer that.
Okay, so that's just quickly what should be recited in there, and how to go about reciting it, and how should it be ended with the praise of Lord and glory. So just something about that. Then the direction is, as we touched upon that, the direction is mentioned as well, which I have not found the direct relationship, but it's the direction. So that's what the thing was. The interesting observation which I came across was from the Zoroastrian, the namaz is the word which comes from the Parsi, and when you look at their way of praying, was they've got a similar pattern that they've divided into 5, and that's there. So this has been there about 2,000 years before Prophet Muhammad. So
You can see even like Asr and the Uzr,
so the similarity
and
of the
Isha
words.
and Ushan, it even sounds similar.
Right, should we leave it there then and go on to the question and answers, and maybe if you've got some more slides, they'll come in with the question and answer session if you like. Catherine?
Yeah, just what she just said now is we must also keep in mind that the Quran confirms previous scriptures. So standing, bowing, and prostrate was in the Injil and in the Torah. So
Yeah.
that is why. That's
So
why.
I've read the references from Bible that there are mentions of
So
Bible.
it's no surprise that they also do it, although they do it.
In fact, the Karaites, we met them at the Quran conference at Oxford University. The Karaites are the sect of Judaism which follow the Torah alone. You know, like we guys are
Yeah, the Orthodox,
Quran alone.
yeah.
There's a branch called Karaites who are the Jewish
Yeah.
Torah alone. They also perform Salat with prostrations and praying. In fact, at Oxford, when we had our conference, they were actually, I mean,
Go from
Yeah.
Kushi, yeah.
exactly. I mean, he's the leader of the Karaites in, at least in Europe. And he came to attend the Quran conference. You guys know about Miko in Oxford?
I haven't been there.
No? Taj Hajri?
Hagi.
Hagri?
That name
Okay.
sounds familiar.
Anyway, so that's how we realize that there are people even from Judaism who pray the same as us. And if you go on YouTube, you will find, if you enter in, I mean, not that you would think to enter it into YouTube, but there are videos of people who are in Jewish areas of even New York, in their shops, where it looks like they're praying.
The same like the Muslim. I saw that
Exactly.
one.
You saw the
Yeah,
one I'm talking
where
about?
we're talking, then he's got an interview with one, and then you see the
Yeah,
shop.
in the background,
Yeah.
the Jewish
And
workers.
there's another one where they're lying down.
Yeah,
That one. Just
so it's
go
interesting.
down like that. And then also another thing is.
Have you got another question for us,
Yeah.
Jamal?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the thing just to add to that is I once went to a Hare Krishna temple, and I also saw they were also bowing, and they went down on the ground like that, and one of them did like the Jew also like that. So you can see the rituals, prayers comes a long time. The Hare Krishna religion comes 5,000 years. So it's maybe the time of Abraham.
Any more questions?
Also, I mean, you mentioned about the system. Have you thought about it? I mean, what it consists of?
It's to do with the governance of the society, because you have to be a part of the society. So, and anything to do with the adding the value. I mean, in the simplest term,
Human development?
adding value to other human lives in whatever capacity. I mean, where that's the concept of zakat and the infaq comes in. Whatever you've got more than for your utilization, give it away.
Yeah.
And that can only be established in a form of a system and a governance based on Quranic principles. Whether in a current structure of the political or the rules and regulations of law, how you call it, that's a whole different talk, how you go about doing it. But so that's where I think of it. I mean, and that's what, when you look at the Quran, my understanding is it asks you to look at take care of your neighbors first.
Yes.
Any people who are more deserving. So you start locally around you, what you can do physically as well as cause the efforts to happen. It does not ask you to immediately jump and do something which you do not see or understand.
Can I also add, chapter 107, Al-Ma'un, is actually confirming what you said. it says فَوَيْلٌ لِلْمُصَلِّينَ. So woe to those who do salat. الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ sorry, I'm just going to have to recite it in full because I just don't want to get it wrong there.
Who ignore the neighbor's basic needs.
Yeah, and I must say that I just looked into this word for this research and I thought it was quite interesting. Basically, it starts with أَرَأَيْتَ الَّذِي يُكَذِّبُ بِالدِّينِ. So have you not seen the ones who deny a deed? So it's quite heavy. فَذَلِكَ الَّذِي يَدُعُ الْيَتِيمِ. They are those who repulse the orphans. وَلَا يَخُضُّ عَلَى طَعَامِ الْمِسْكِينِ. And they do not encourage the feeding of the indigent. فَوَيْلٌ لِلْمُصَلِّينَ. So they are doing salat, but Allah says, woe to them. الَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنْ صَلَاتِهِمْ سَاهُونَ. So their salat is off target. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ يُرَاءُونَ. And they just want to be seen. And here's the end bit. وَيَمْنَعُونَ الْمَعُونَ. And I looked this word, al-ma'un. It means to maintain an optimum state of society.
Yes.
So if a person does salat, this is what he needs to aim for. And if he doesn't have this, that means his salat is off target according to Allah. Again, I'm not saying that a ritual can't achieve this, but it's a beginning to transformation, maybe I would say.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
I saw on there you mentioned about the salat timings with the Salat al-Fajr, Salat al-Wusta and Salat al-Isha. And from what I understand, some people take Salat al-Wusta to be not a particular time of day, but a description of the kind of salat that it is, a balanced one, or from the middle of your soul or from the middle of your heart. And what my question is, have you ever thought of the Salat al-Fajr and Salat al-Isha, maybe they're descriptive of the type of salat, not timings as well, if Wusta can be a description rather than a timing, if that makes sense?
Both the views are there, and I can put it as way, the jury is out. I've always done the 5 times, or tried to do the 5 times, but at present, I am at present, is it 5, is it 3, or is it 2? So
Wait, are you saying
I need to come to that conclusion what I'm doing, so I'm trying to do as much as possible physically. So
Can I just ask you one question which I didn't understand? You said when you do the salah, you can actually see the difference.
That's to do with it. It makes you more regimented and more routine, and it breaks your flow. If I'm intensely working on the computer and then go in front of God, and then I'm praying, I know everything is for God. I don't control everything. So when we do things, we get so involved and attached. So it's just, I felt personally.
It's like a little yoga.
No,
not
a yoga, but touching on what you're saying there. What it does is it takes you, when you're that focused purely on God and purely on the Word, and you're actually involving your physical self in an action as well. What it does is it takes you out of this world in a way. So that all the problems that you might have. Sometimes I know back in the day, you used to stand there from the bus and think, I think I could have a bit of chicken today. That'd be nice. It has absolutely no bearing on it. But I know when you're mindful of it and you're really protecting it, and touching on the fact that really knowing exactly what you're reading and practicing, it does take you totally out of it. So when you do read a full surah, for example, that the understanding of. As Farouk said, time and time again, you will fall prostrate, and you will fall, and you will have tears in your eyes, because you will be affected, you can be affected, in that particular way where your emotions are actually involved. But because again you're involving this whole physical aspect, you're fully involved, from head to toe, rather than just sitting there and going.
And it's a state of mind as well. There are research which says when you go down, the blood flows to your head more. So there that is below your heart. So that is good for your brain as well. So there are elements of that.
There's also some people say when you physically are prostrating low on the ground, there's something about the Earth's magnetic field that even like animals like chickens and stuff like that, before any disturbances, the animals seem to signal that they know something's about to happen before an earthquake or before something of that nature. Well, the scientific thinking at the moment is because they're closer to the Earth's surface, so they can distinguish slight disturbances in the magnetic field. And so when we also, I mean, you might have seen, you can buy magnets. I mean, I used to, you can buy magnets for your bangles, or also that you just kind of like attach. And honestly, you do feel like your circulation is improved. I don't know if it's psychological, but there is some evidence to suggest magnetic field does kind of, because we are sort of made up of atoms
From the
anyway.
earth, yeah.
Yeah, so there is that thing that it's very, your energy flows and your circulation flows. So there's that thinking as well.
Also, waking up in the middle of the night to pray. Studies have shown that this breaks the sleep pattern and therefore aids better sleep. But also, performing that action in the middle of the night when the body's been still for such a long time prevents arthritis. So there are like other benefits to the ritual.
I think there's one other way of putting the response to the question is that, you know, there are added physical benefits to it, but you can do exercise or other things to get that benefit. What the important thing is to remember is, as Yasin was saying, the connection, you know, the clarity in the state of mind that you achieve and you remember, that is the most important aspect. Otherwise, you can do the physical fitness in any other way and shape.
But just the last point which I wanted to say is, if he wakes up he does the, in the morning, he does his, and I wake up and I sit at my desk and I read Quran because that's my now contact. That is my contact, the same like his contact. He's doing it physical and I'm just reading and I'm getting the liberation and I imagine something, Allah revealed something and suddenly my eyes are crying. Is it the same like him?
I cannot make that judgment.
You have to answer it yourself.
I cannot make that judgment. I think that's for God to judge.
That's okay.
So it's not for me to make that judgment.
Okay, thank you very much for that question and answer session.